to the Yoga and Meditation Society of Anta. I am Dr. Ashok Malhotra. I'm the chairman of the society. This society is sponsored by a grant from the Meta-Nexus Institute of Philadelphia as well as Anta. Today we are very lucky to have a guest from India, Dr. Matthew Chandrankunnel. He's a physicist. He's also a Catholic priest. And what a dynamite combination. And he's going to be talking to us about Christian yoga. And we also have Dr. Douglas Schrader, who is a distinguished teaching professor and also chairman of the philosophy department at Anta. Welcome, gentlemen. And we'll have a good time arguing, discussing, and getting some more information about your background. Now, you're from India. I'm also originally from India. You just came from Bangalore, the famous city, which is considered to be more like the Silicon Valley of America, and it's the Silicon Valley of India. And you have all kinds of changes going on there. At the same time, when we look at the city of Bangalore, it almost represents the way the whole country of India is. People have thought that India is a wonderful abode for all the major religions of the world. There you think about Hinduism, yes, you have many, many temples there in Bangalore and also in India. You have Islamic mosques there. You have Christian churches. You have temples of the Sikhs. You also have Buddhist and Jain, Jews. So you're almost covering an entire spectrum of religions. Now you grew up in India, and you are a Christian, I call it priest. Okay, so tell us something about your background in India and how Christianity has been able to link together the basic ideas of Hinduism into their own system. Or just talk about us. Tell us something about your background.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ashok Malhotra and Professor Dr. Douglas Schrader.
That's good.
Actually, I am grateful to you for this occasion to express about India and Indian Christianity. And as Dr. Ashok was mentioning, Bangalore is a kind of microcosm of the whole of India. I am actually coming from Dharmaram Vidya Kshetram, which was established almost 50 years ago. I am also a Catholic priest coming from the tradition of St. Thomas Christians. And I find that India is a matrix of cultures where the various cultures integrated came together into a fusion and give a kind of a rainbow culture to the whole of India. I am actually the professor of philosophy and science, but I am interested in the different religious traditions because of my own lived experience in Kerala, where we have a contextualized, integrated religious living. When I was in the school, we have Muslims, Hindus living together and playing together, studying together. We were invited to their homes. And when I was studying for my college, I found that one of the Hindu monks had translated a book into Malayalam, which is the Pilgrim's Progress. And
John Bunyan's book.
The John Bunyan's book.
Yes.
And also another book which is also a spiritual Christian classic. That is, if I remember correctly, a Russian monk moving from one spiritual pilgrim center to another, and he is chanting the mantra, which we can call in India, or it is something like a phrase, Lord Jesus, have mercy on me. So Swami Siddhinathananda Swamiji, he translated it from English to Malayalam. So I was fascinated by this translation, and then I wrote to him asking why you are a Hindu and you have translated this Christian classic. And then he invited me, why don't you come and stay in our ashram? It was a Ramakrishna mission ashram, and it was started by Swami Vivekananda, who came to United States in 1893, and he greeted the whole of Americans as brothers and sisters. So that was for the first time.
Right.
So they have fascinated by this expression. So he started, Swami Vivekananda started Ramakrishna mission. So Swami Siddhinathananda invited me. I stayed there, and I found that, to my surprise, Swami was more knowledgeable about Christianity than me. He can easily quote from Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, and various other spiritual Christian classics. And he told me that there is no boundaries in spirituality. So that was an impetus, a seed that has been grown or put into me, which has grown later when I become the director of the Center for the Study of World Religions in Bangalore. We used to have students coming from various European universities. We had a program which is known as Contemporary Indian Religious Traditions.
Right.
So the Lancaster University used to send students, so there were 10-15 students. So I took them, these students, to various religious traditions, and recently we have almost 50 students. This year we had students from Leuven, we had from Berlin, from Amsterdam, and also a professor from the University of Minnesota. So I went to these various religious centers. I have been to the Sikh religion. They have a Gurudwara there. Every Sunday they have beautiful chanting of Guru Granth Sahib. I was so fascinated. The beautiful music.
That Guru Granth Sahib is their religious book.
Their religious book.
Religious book, okay.
And this religious book, you know, to our surprise, actually written by Hindu monks and Muslim fakirs, and the Sikh religious leaders, they are chanting it, and it is so marvelous. And they have this beautiful concept of Guru. So Guru Nanak started it, the religion, and now instead of the book is the Guru, the book is guiding them.
Yeah, let's look at it's wonderful that you're trying to show how so many different religions are represented in a Hindu or Indian culture. People in the West do not understand that India is a very big country with a population of 1.1 billion people. And they think that it's a Hindu country. Of course, majority of the people living there are Hindus. More than 800 million are Hindus. But India is also a Muslim country. It has more than 140 million Muslims living there. That's only second to the population of the biggest Muslim country, which is Indonesia, 210 million. And then the third largest religion in India, which most of the people don't know, is Christianity, more than 26 million. And then we have Sikhism, and the present Prime Minister of India is Sikh. And he belonged to this group of people, there are 20 million of them. And then we have Buddhists, then we have Jains, we have then Jews also, and many other tribal religions. So what you're talking about is that even the book of the Sikhs, Guru Granth Sahib, is actually composed by people coming from two other religions,
yes,
Hinduism
indeed,
and Islam.
Indeed.
And that's what's fascinating. What I think would like to know from you is, how did Christianity come to India in the first place? And if you can give us a short introduction to that. And then how did you get into it? How did your family become part of it?
Christianity came to India in the first century itself. That is, one of the apostles, disciples of Jesus Christ, the doubting Thomas, Saint Thomas the apostle, came to Kodungallur, that is a port city in Kerala. there were many Jewish people, traders, used to come from Israel and to have trade with the small kingdoms in Kerala. So already there are settlements of Jewish people. So Saint Thomas was coming to Kerala in search of these Jewish people, and then he moved on to the indigenous people there, and the tradition goes that he has converted 10 families. So these 10 families multiplied through the centuries into 30 million people. So we are known as the Thomas Christians. So we have the great tradition that Saint Thomas the Apostle have given us the faith, that is the Christian faith. So in the first century itself, Christianity has arrived in India, and in Kerala we have great number of religious people, that is priests, sisters belonging to these Saint Thomas Christians, and they are working all over the world as missionaries, as educators. And my own congregation has more than 100 priests working in different dioceses, and also we have a house in Brooklyn, cooperating or coordinating the programs here in the United States.
And how did your family?
My family.
How do you trace the ancestry of your family? Who are they initially?
My ancestral family also belongs to these first 10 families. So it is said that everybody is well aware about the different caste system in India: the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Shudra.
And the Brahmins are the scholars. The Kshatriyas are the warriors.
Yes.
Vaishyas are the merchants, and then Shudras are the workers.
The workers. So Thomas, when he came to preach, it was the Brahmin families who accepted him.
The scholarly people.
The scholarly people.
Yes.
So therefore, all the Thomas Christians, they trace their background, their families into these 10 families. So traditionally, my family was one of these first traditional Brahmin families converted to Christianity, and therefore we have lots of this culture integrated into Christianity, especially the marriage festival, the birth ceremonies, and also the death ceremonies. So several cultural aspects are integrated into Christianity. As an example, when a child is born, they will be giving gold that will be grind in honey. So it is actually a Brahmin custom. So we have adopted that. And also in the marriage ceremonies, it is a banyan leaf will be tied to the neck of the bride, and we have simply added into the banyan leaf a cross. So
what a nice blend of Hinduism and Christianity.
Yes.
I want to pick up on a different element of the tradition that goes back to Thomas, though, and this speaks to your dual role as a priest and a physicist as well. As you've mentioned, Thomas was known as Doubting Thomas, because unlike other disciples, when he was informed that Jesus had been raised from the dead, he said, "I won't believe it until I see it myself, until I place my hand in the wound in the side, or my finger in the hole in the hand." And this is very much characteristic of our scientific attitude, that we want empirical results, that we don't want to believe on the basis of faith, but rather on the basis of experience. And I wish if you would talk a little bit, particularly given your own dual role, of that relationship between faith and the tendency within science to demand belief based on experience and experimentation.
Thank you, Professor Douglas Schrader, for this fantastic question. That question really rakes my internal belief systems and my position as a Catholic priest and also as a scientist. I am groomed into physics, and my rationality is the basis of my actions and my belief systems. I am actually coming from the tradition of quantum mechanics, and I learned about astronomy, astrophysics. So when I look into the theory of relativity and how the theory of relativity is describing the whole world, I strongly believe that this science, the rationality, teaches me that there is something beyond. That is, as an example, in the solar system, it's only a very tiny sun and 9 planets around it, and then we have 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and this Milky Way galaxy is part of local group, which is there are 20 other galaxies, and there are millions and millions of such galactic clusters. So therefore, billions and billions and billions of stars. How can we believe that it is simply based on chance? My rationality, my reason teaches me, from looking from this perspective of science, that there is a supreme intelligence that coordinates. And I think that that is the same case with, if you are going into the interior of the atom, there is also mystery. You know, the neutrons, the electrons, the protons, and in the protons there are almost more than 200 particles, and the quarks. So the coordination between all of them, I believe that there is some supreme intelligence behind it. Almost in the same way, if you are looking into this cell, it's again a mystery. It is so fascinating how the proteins are produced. So this scientific research helped me to discover the fascinating phenomenon of God, that is something beyond it. So my rationality led me to the faith. We are unaware about, we don't know how the singularity, the cosmic singularity began, how it exploded. We do not know. That is, there are limits for science, and so therefore these are the points where the religion, the faith can help us. So science, it has its own boundaries, religion has its own boundaries, or the faith has its own boundaries. So an integration of these two is necessary. And
so if there is, to continue with that question, if there is a clash between science and your religious faith, and science is able to prove its point on the basis of experiential evidence, religion still has to prove its point on the basis of faith only. So how do you reconcile that in your own person? That is, science empirically can verify, whereas religion is still dependent on faith. So
I think that,
how do you resolve that clash?
I think that we have to describe what is meant by science. Science can be explained in terms of its methodology and domain.
Okay.
And the methodology of science is, there is the observation, experiment, hypothesis, or the assumptions,
right,
the verification of this hypothesis, law statement, then a theory, that is several of the law statements condensed into a philosophical vision.
Okay.
And also there is some characteristics for this methodology. So it is cumulative, it is applicable, it has a technology, that is, this knowledge can be converted into technology, and also it is universal.
Okay.
That means it can transcend space and time, anybody, and it is testable. And also we have to apply into the chain of being, or the domain of being. We have the material, we have the plant life, and we have the animal life, we have the human mind, and then we have the spirit and the concept of God. So the chain of being is everything together.
Kind of continuum.
Continuum.
Yes.
So we have these methodology. How far we can apply this methodology? We can apply this methodology very strictly to hard sciences, that is till the animal life, till the genetics. And science is based on observation, phenomenon. Can we deny phenomenon that cannot be based on this principle of observation? We know that there are other phenomena which cannot be simply observed.
Okay.
So, from the part of science and from the part of religion, there are obstacles. From the part of science, it is scientism, when science claims that we can explain everything in terms of science. And from the part of religion, we have dogmatism. That is, religion when comes to explain everything in terms of religious principles. It happened in the past that Galileo was condemned because of this dogmatism.
Sure.
And it was going on for several centuries.
Right.
People used to criticize the Christianity and the church. It is not open to the new realities and is against science.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, Pope John Paul the Great, so he instituted a committee to study the problem, and in 1992 he apologized to the world that the church was wrong in condemning Galileo, and he rehabilitated Galileo by saying that he is a model believer and also a model scientist.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. I think we have maybe 6-7 minutes left, and the topic which we are working on is yoga and Christianity, or Christian yoga. And could you, delve into that and tell us more about it? How do you see the connection there between yoga and Christianity, and how the Indian Christians were able to adapt or adopt the yoga system, and some of them make it as a way of their religious pursuit?
Yeah. As I said in the beginning, that Christianity integrated so much from the Hindu or Indian culture. So yoga, if we are approaching yoga, it is a technology, and that technology is for a timeless mind in an ageless body. A timeless mind in an ageless body. So yoga, we can, anybody. So we have, I told you in the beginning that we have a matrix of cultures and also religious traditions.
Yeah.
So anybody, the concept of yoga itself is that you should have an Ishta Devada. That means a personal concept of God. So as a Christian, I take Jesus in the form of Guru. So Jesus, the Guru, will be
teacher.
my Ishta Devada, that is my teacher, my master. So when I am doing pranayama, that is breath control, and the different postures, that is the asanas, I configure his face or his picture in my mind.
Okay.
And I breathe in and breathe out by chanting his name as a mantra. So therefore I can integrate the concept of yoga with my own Christianity. And also that yoga teaches that one should go beyond the physical to the truth, in search of the truth, and the truth, the ultimate truth, that is God. So therefore there is no problem in integrating yoga into Christianity. So I called it as Christian yoga, but I would say that there is nothing as special Christian yoga. It is only yoga, and that yoga transcends every religion, every race. It can be practiced by anyone because of its universality. You don't have to bring in lots of Hindu concepts or any other concepts. It can integrate with your religious belief.
Like Gandhi did, we have a couple of minutes left, like Mahatma Gandhi integrated all the various religions. So if we are talking about India, which housed all these religions, provided an abode to all these religions, Gandhi was the embodiment of all these different faiths. And Gandhi could say Jesus in the same breath as he could say Krishna or he could say Buddha, because he thought that really yoga was moving in the direction of, or giving us the direction, the goal of spirituality, which Gandhi called truth. And he thought God was one of the names of this truth. Krishna was one of the names. Buddha was one of the names. Jesus was one of the names of this truth. And when you're talking about the Ishta Devata, that is your own chosen deity. So as a Christian, you can adopt yoga and say that Jesus is the way to this truth. Or as a Hindu, I can say Krishna is the way to. As a Taoist, Tao is the way to this truth. So all these are different ways leading to the same truth. So is that what you are really trying to indicate?
Well, when we consider Mahatma Gandhi, he was a person of integrating various religious traditions. We find that he was so much taken up by the Sermon on the Mount, Bhagavad Gita, and also Quran. So he found all these religious tradition to blossom his spirituality. So he was a person who was so much integrated with the spirituality. So that spirituality was his power for the political process and the political transformation. Mm-hmm. So I think that the spirituality is important. One should be groomed into these spiritual traditions, and there are so many things which we can appreciate in every religion. Mm-hmm. In every religion there is the truth. So those positive aspects we should try to integrate.
And imbibe.
Yes, imbibe.
We have just 1 minute and we can have a comment from each one of us. So Dr. Schrader, your comment about it, and then we'll listen to Dr. Matthew.
I'm just thinking back to your comment before about the ashram started by Vivekananda, and the familiarity of the person that you studied with, St. John of the Cross and Teresa of Avila. If you could say a little more about that, I think that would be very interesting.
And that way we can end our discussion here.
Well, that's what I was imbibed by the spirit of Siddhinathananda Swamiji, who wrote so much from these different traditions. Though he was a Hindu monk, he transcended his religious background, accepted everything, spiritual elements from every religious tradition. And I think that would be the positive aspect for the 21st century. A spirituality that unites us, a spirituality that transforms us, a spirituality that transcends us.
Okay, so that's the kind of thing, which people who follow yoga at the present time, we have close to 15 million Americans who are doing yoga. They think that yoga is the spirituality for the 21st century. And because it transcends all religions, and it's looking for that truth and that ultimate connection with the universe, which the religion is looking for, theology is looking for, and sciences are looking for. So yoga may be the answer. Thank you very much.
Yes, great, Dr. Ashok.
Thank you.
And Dr. Douglas, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It was fascinating to talk to you.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
The time goes very